Cassava and Cornbread. Don't bring the drama around it. Cassava and Cornbread. Don't bring the drama around it. No, no, no. Don't do it, got some bad girls with me. Don't do it, got some bad girls with me. Don't do it, got some bad girls with me. Don't do it, don't do it. Don't do it, got some bad girls with me.
Welcome again to this episode this week. So motherhood is what we're talking about, and I'm speaking for myself here when I say that motherhood is weird. I think it's really strange. First of all, it's 9 months of basically a parasite growing in your belly. You feed it and you pretend as if it's not some outside host plaguing your insides, but it is, right? And then you pull it out, your back hurts, your feet swell, you're throwing up everywhere, you can't sleep well, right? Then you push it out. Labor usually takes what? Some people go in there, 20 minutes is done. Most people, I know, it's like 12 hours, 16 hours of excruciating pain. I know my mother loves to tell me how long she was in labor for and how painful it was. And then even afterwards, once the baby's out, it's like your vagina is all twisted up. Your insides have to readjust. You walking around with a diaper on, bleeding profusely. All types of crazy shit happens, right? But let mothers tell it. And even through all of that, it is probably one of the best things that has ever happened to them. And their children are such a blessing. So because it's a conundrum to me and I can't get it, and most of us in this group are single, we thought it'd be a good idea this week to talk to a mother. We have a special guest. Her name is Heather. Hey, Heather.
Hey.
Hey. She's a friend of ours, and she's going to talk to us, talk about the joys as well as some of the challenges of motherhood. So, Heather, I just want you to first introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, who you were before you had your baby. Let's start there.
Hi, I'm Heather. I am Hawa, Aisha, and Ashley's friend from some time ago.
Yeah.
I think 10 years now, maybe?
Really?
Yeah. At this
my
point?
God, yeah, girl.
Yeah, almost 10, almost a decade.
Almost 10.
I used to be not married. I used to be not a teacher. I used to be not a mother. Now I am married, teaching, a mom, and a homeowner. So I fulfill the motherhood stereotype. What else should I say?
Characteristics. Who were you as a person? We're not just talking
we
about
know
your
who Heather was.
before we throw you under the bus. Tell us who you thought you were.
I feel like I'm the same person. Okay.
Do you? Okay. Let's talk. Okay, so who are you now? Now that you're a mother, do you feel like your personality has changed any at all? Or who you are has changed at all?
Well, yes. Okay. So that's fair. That's fair. So I think before I was, I was young, I was single, I lived in a city. I was like, where is the protest? Let's fight the man. Everything I wanted to do came first. And so, of course, I think that changes when you have a kid. And so ultimately, when you have a kid, everything your child needs comes first. So I like to think that I still fight the man. I'm still out there. I'm still doing something relatively important to the world. It just looks a little bit different. It happens at different times of the day. I don't know.
Okay, well, can we talk about it, Heather? Do you want to talk about who you thought Heather was before? Because I'm gonna just chime in, girl.
For me, when I first met Heather, right? She's obviously a beautiful lady.
Yeah.
But she was a super revolutionary, fight the man all the time.
Viva la revolution.
Never take a break. And then she was this.
Then reality sets in, you bitch, I got a mortgage. Let me sit my ass down somewhere.
I even forgot she was a photographer.
Yes, girl. Well, we're going to move on from that. We don't mean to make you feel bad about your decisions.
Maybe I'm sure when her daughter grows up, she'll probably go back to being
doing all that extra shit. So, but why, what were your reasons, do you think, now that we've dragged your whole life through the mud, what were some of the reasons you had for becoming a mother?
So, I don't know, because I never wanted children. And I remember I was like really high on my horse in undergrad. I was like a women's studies major. And I remember one time I went home and like I was in the car with my mom. I was like, why did you even have me? And she was like, and she couldn't really even give me a response. I was like, precisely, there is no rationale for having a child. And to this day, I kind of feel like that's probably true. I don't necessarily always know what our rationale is for having children. But I think too, though, when I met my husband, it got to a point, and my husband always wanted kids. And I think because he always wanted to be a dad, it wasn't that he always wanted kids. Like he always wanted to be in like that father role. Which I mean, for a man is probably desirable. I think for a lot of women, especially if like you're a working woman or if you're like a very independent woman, I mean, fulfilling a maternal role does not sound particularly appetizing, I think, especially to our generation. Um, and so, but it got to a point where I was like, oh, well, I really like him and I could see having a baby with him. So it wasn't necessarily that I wanted a kid, but somehow there was like this shift where I was like, oh, I could see myself like having this family unit with this particular person. Whereas with other people I was with before, I was like, nah, okay, I'm good. I did not want to have something that bound me to another human being for the rest of my life, essentially. So, I had to make hard decisions in my 20s too when certain situations came up. I won't go into it, but like that was sort of like the deciding factor with certain things. I was like, I don't want to be with you for the rest of my life and I want no connection to you. And then I think too, the other thing, and I will say I've talked to a lot of moms who have this motivation, however, like fucked up it might seem, but I think a lot of women become married to their work. And at some point, you desire something that will force you to prioritize something or someone else over your work, especially when you do like if you're a teacher or you work in social justice or something, where like your purpose, you already have a higher purpose. It's that like I think that's like a perpetual demand on your time and like your focus. And so I think for me and like a lot of other women, in some ways, it was like having a baby was a little bit of a professional out. It was like a way to say, like, no, I can't go to that 500th meeting this week. Like, I got a kid to take care of.
I think when I read or what I've heard too, a lot of people say is it all it's all about like progeny too. So like not only
Yeah.
I think this kind of relates to what you said about Charlene. It's not just some people think that having children is selfless, but it's also kind of like I want to see what a little me looks like, or I want to make sure my lineage lives on for future generations.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care about that, but I think that's also because, like, in my family, there's like there's adoption and there's all kind of like weird stuff. But yeah, I do think, especially for men, that becomes a thing. There's, especially for my husband who comes from like a more traditional culture, a more traditional country, where like your family name and you come from a very old society and all that kind of stuff. I think that's definitely true.
So to kind of segue a little bit for everybody else, is having a child important to you? Like, do you have reasons for it, and what are those reasons?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's important to me because just like Heather's husband, I come from a traditional background where you have to have a lineage after you leave. Like, it's important to carry your name on. But as a woman, I'm probably not going to carry my name on because I'm going to marry a man who's going to do that for me. Mm-hmm. But I never thought about like, because I am dating a couple of guys, but I never thought, I just always think, okay, I'm too selfish to have a kid, but maybe it might be that thing, like, I'm not ready to have a kid with those guys. So Heather bringing up that point, I'm like, it might be that's the reason why I don't see myself having a kid.
Oh, love is
I know,
love
right?
is all you need. Make a compromise, all types of
I know,
shit.
I'm gonna meet a guy that's
cute.
gonna spark. Maybe that's what love is. Like, you're gonna be like, oh, I can see myself having a kid with you.
I will do all types of shit for this dude right here because he is the one.
I will change diapers.
Okay. I will be a shadow.
I'll give up my alone time.
Right? Poop on me. It's
Yeah. Oh my god.
Are you sure?
I'm just afraid of kids. Like, I want kids, but not until my 30s. And
Okay.
just like how I do come from, a background where, you have to have kids and all that. But for me, it's like in my 30s because I just feel like I'm not ready to care so much for another human being. And so until I'm there mentally, I don't think I'll have kids. So if it's in my late 30s, that's fine. 40s, whatever.
40s, girl.
I mean, hey, science is there to help out.
I guess.
Hopefully
But
I've
your
made
age
enough
is still
money
your
by then.
age. Your child gonna be 50. You gonna be 58 when your child go off to college. I don't want no. Listen, okay.
That is
so-
okay.
Woo!
That is fine. I'm
Woo!
okay with that.
My grandma was a grandma at 58. Okay, anyway, so for me, to talk about like what you said, like there's a lot of adoption in my family, even in my immediate family. So my mom, some of y'all know this. I think all of y'all know this. I've talked about this. Was adopted by her aunt. So and then both her parents have passed now. So it's always like a tricky thing for me, especially when I go to the doctor. And I don't know my father either. So when they they talk to me about stuff, and I'm like, I have no idea. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So for me, having children, it's like, am I really about to put them through, the torture of trying to find people in their family to figure out, well, my grandma had this, my granddad had this, my dad had this. It's too much. So sometimes I don't know if I even want to have children. But also because of the fact that so many of us in my family were adopted, like a lot of my mother's aunts had adopted children. Her brother adopted a kid. A lot of people in my family adopt. I have thought about adopting or even being a foster parent. Like, I figured once, I talk about my farm every week because if I speak on it, it becomes true. Ain't that the secret?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I imagine myself like being the foster parent of like 3 kids at a time, and they help me on the farm, and they can't go nowhere else but in the rural area, so they can't even get in trouble like how they would if they was in the city. I'm like, I would be a great foster parent. You know what I mean? So childbirth is something I can't imagine right now, but I do imagine myself child rearing. So to have children in my life is important. So how I get them is still a mystery. But yeah. So we kind of know we want kids. Some of us do, some of us don't. But as far as like motherhood, like, do we have any role models? Did we have role models growing up? This is for anybody. I know I had plenty. Heather, you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, well, to kind of backtrack just a little bit too. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that on this, but I think one of the interesting things though, like with our generation, is I sometimes think too, oddly enough, millennials overthink stuff. I know we're like characterized as being like highly irrational, uh, but it's because like every time I talk to them, it's like, no, I'm still too selfish in my life. Like I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for that. And I always say like, you're never going to be ready. And that's the point that I got to like in our marriage. Like we talk about having kids and when are we going to do it? And I mean, I guess too, that's maybe a layover for my 20s. I'm not much for like planning. But I was like, you're never going to be ready. And like, you're never going to be willing to give up your selfishness until you even see your child, whether your child is born of you, whether you're adopting your kid. I mean, nobody wants to give up the things that bring them joy. So you're never going to like give up a night out with girlfriends to stay home with a screaming sick baby until like you see them and until like that relationship happens and until you're sort of converted into that role. I mean, it's just, it never, I promise you, it will not happen. Even in your pregnancy, like your pregnancy, it's amazing. Like you're treated like a goddess, and that's still really selfish. Like you are treated so well when you're pregnant. As soon as that baby's born, nobody gives a shit about you or your kid.
That's so funny to me though, because this is like a culture shock almost for me, because in as a Hebrew, everybody gives a fuck. For them first 2 months, at least, everybody cares that you have a kid. Like you got 2 months of pampering. It depends on what you have, because it's like biblical or whatever. So if you have a boy, you're like set aside, quote unquote, for like 40 days. It's like you can't go in the kitchen, you can't cook for yourself. So people come over and cook for you. If you have a girl, you're set aside for 80 days. So you ain't really doing shit. Everybody's taking care of you for like almost 3 months. You know what I mean? All you have to do is worry about feeding your child. That's it. Everything else is taken care of by other people. So when I hear stuff like that, I'm like, what? Because I know for a fact that my mama is going to move in with me if I have a kid. I'll be like, you might as well go ahead and set 3 months aside because you coming to live with me. And that's that. Because why else what the hell else am I supposed to do?
Yeah. Well, and I think there's too, like, there's this distinction of like postpartum and then like even like when it becomes outside of your house, like when you start leaving your house with your kid a lot, like after 3 months. It's just kind of like a wild thing too, because you're pregnant and then there's this sort of like romantic, like your hormones, all our love hormones, like explosion, like those first couple months with your kid. But then it's also societal too. It's like you go from being like the pregnant reproductive goddess, like the freaking like Venus de Milo, And then it's like, then you go out into public and it's like, why is your kid crying? Get your kid to shut up. Your kid is like an inconvenience to like a productive culture. And it's like, shit, and that's a whole other like level of rude awakening too.
Right. Heather, Howard, wasn't there a time you said you was on a bus and people would curse somebody out because they was...
Well, no, on a train, this happens all the time. Mm-hmm. There's always like a lady with her crying baby, right. And there was one guy one time, he was bold enough. I mean, we're all annoyed that the child is crying. It's too early for that. Loud cry. Yeah. But there was a guy who just out of nowhere started cursing out the ladies, just like, keep your child quiet. And honestly, the whole train just looked at him like, you need to get a car.
Right.
You can't be on public transportation yelling at a woman because her child is crying.
And children cry too. Like,
that's what they do.
Like, I don't know what you want the kid to do other than that. Like, there's but so much a child can handle. You know what I mean? And sometimes they get frustrated and the only way they know how to express themselves is by wailing. So let them wail.
I mean, it's annoying. We get it.
And
it's annoying.
How selfish could you be for like probably like a 10-15 minute metro ride? Like,
right. Put some headphones on. Anyway, so we distracted. So fact of the fucking matter is, I get what you're saying. Like, that shit is bizarre. It's weird. I don't get that either. Like, somehow you're supposed to be some strong macho woman now that you done had the kid. It's like, this is the bad part. This is the bad part.
And then let you yell at your kid or spank your kid, because like, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Well, I feel like the spanking part too is like, a Westerner type of thing, because like in Africa, they don't care whether you spank your kids or not.
Africa too, though, because Ethiopian people, I don't never see them spanking they children. Them children is terrible.
Maybe because you don't see what happens at home.
Or it's because they're here, probably.
Yeah,
anybody that comes here starts changing.
Yeah.
Same thing with like South Asian parents. I don't know what the fuck it is with them people either. Them kids is spoiled as shit. I'm like, what the hell is happening?
My husband says, like, in South Asian families, you do whatever the hell you want to do for the first 5 years, then they start beating the hell out of you after 5 years.
Really?
Oh my God.
That's it. Ain't no more self-exploration. Fuck that.
Well, maybe your brain needs to develop a little bit more so you could know better.
Right.
We feel like at 5 you should know better.
Right. At that point, I'm beating your ass. Okay. Going back to we talked about like what we've seen and how other people judge us, but how did we see motherhood from other people? Like, going back to my first question, like, what were some of our role models? Go ahead.
Well, sorry. I mean, I think she said something about this connection that she has with the child. And for me, as a single person, I'm not sure what that connection is. From pregnancy to having your child and, like, taking away. Yeah, because I feel like we should talk about that because she brought that up. And I'm like, okay.
The connection?
Yeah, that connection, because I don't think it's real.
It's real. Go ahead, Heather, you want to talk about that connection?
Yeah, and it's like, and that's the hardest part to explain, and you feel like corny as shit, because I remember too, like, in my 20s, I was so like pro-reproductive rights, pro-choice, and obviously I still am, but part of like the galvanizing message for like pro-choice people is all this crap, typically from extremist Christians about like, the miracle of life, blah, blah, blah. Obviously I continue being pro-choice to this day. Like, my child was my choice, but there is this thing, and it's like, and when your child is born, it is absolutely a miracle. I mean, even when you're pregnant, like, you're getting kicked, and I remember Sati used to like tickle my pelvis. I'd be teaching in the middle of class, and like, some people would think that's miraculous. I was like, okay, that's weird. She's in there. I know she's in there. But when you meet your child for the first time, because you have to remember, the only thing you know about your child is you got a positive pregnancy test. Like, in our house, we joke, we're like, Satya started out as like 2 lines on a piece of plastic. And then all of a sudden she's here. And I remember when you hear your child cry, and I ended up having a C-section. I remember I lost my shit. I was like, where's my baby? Give me my baby. Give her to me now. I mean, it takes you to whatever remaining like primitive, like intrinsic primitive orientation we have. It's like indescribable, and you just don't know it until you do it.
Yeah, I was watching that Ricky Lake documentary. I can't remember what it's called, The Price of Motherhood or The Business of Delivering a Baby or whatever. And she was saying like doulas, well, she was talking to doulas or whatever, and they always tell doulas to like reach down and grab their baby and pull their baby out of their vagina after a certain point. And they say they do that is because it's like some, like you said, primal thing that clicks when you hold your baby for the first time, that you're like, now I will kill anybody who tries to hurt this being. You know what I mean? Like, there's something that clicks in you that's just like, all right, now I'm, that mother lion, and if you come for my kids, that's it. It's your life. You know what I mean? So I get it. It's something biological.
Well, it makes me think then what happens to people who give their kids up for adoption?
Yeah.
They go through it.
How hard is that? Like,
yeah. But they do give you like 24 hours before, because again, that biological thing happens. So you got to figure out whether or not you really want to do it. So you sitting there, okay, that's right. So
Yes. Sorry, slight interruption. I heard feet.
it's okay.
Can you say hello?
Hey, girl.
hey.
Hello.
She not gonna say hello because kids are dumb.
Well,
They
you put
don't
them
want
on
to
the
perform
spot,
on
they're
spot.
like-
Yeah, they're like, no thanks.
Hello, it's me.
You're so
She's so
it's
adorable.
so clear.
She's like, hello.
Hello, it's me. All right, girl. Hey, girl. Can she hear us?
Yeah, she can hear. I'm trying to figure out how to turn the TV down. Sati, where's the remote?
Tati is a grown up.
I know. She's like, hello,
Jesus, it's me. Hey, y'all.
What are you looking for?
Oh my jeez.
I actually have a question.
You watch your show. Here's your remote control. Here you go. Here.
Is she watching
How about-
Peppa Pig?
Here's Mother of the Year. How about you have some of these Teddy Grahams? That is just for you. See you later.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God. I love it. See you later. Okay. I can't. I'm through. Go ahead. Aisha said she had a question. Before we move on to these plethora of fucking questions, guys.
Well, no. Because talking about this whole connection thing. So now I'm thinking of like women who don't have children at all. Are they missing out on this whole biological thing that
Ain't
we're
nobody fucking
supposed
missing
to
out.
have as humans or something? Like,
Supposed.
is this supposed to change you as a woman, and it's something you're supposed to go through in life?
Because now I'm like curious to find out what is this connection that you feel.
I don't think, first of all, and okay, so now because I work for a population organization,
You've always worked for these populations.
I know that must be my thing. Yeah, I am the problem. But my thing is like sometimes everybody don't need to procreate, and I don't think that makes you any less of a woman because you don't. I think you just decide not to, and it's okay because there's already too many of us here anyway. You know what I mean? It ain't like we are endangered or something, and so we need to have kids. Most of us don't need to have children. So me not having a kid is not a problem because 4 billion of other women are going to have kids and it's going to be fine. But I don't think that makes you any less of a woman. I just think that's one
I'm
part
not
to
saying
being.
making you any less of a woman, but more so, are you missing out on that
I don't know.
biological?
I just don't feel like there's nothing to
Natural.
miss.
Well, men miss out on it. 'Cause they don't-
Well, men is different.
But it's like any experience though. Like if you don't do it, yeah, you miss out on it. Will you miss it? No, because you won't know to miss it. You know?
Yeah, I think I'll live. All right, so let's go back to role models for the third. Anything else before we move on to role models? Because we got like 12 questions. I think some of them we answered a little bit, but role models. Who wants to go first? Who were some of your role models growing up as mothers? I'll go because
Wait,
everybody's quiet.
You mean as mothers?
Like
What do you
mother
mean?
role models, like women who had
Oh,
children
like-
who are your role models.
Outside
Our
of my
moms.
that's it.
That's
Outside
it.
of your mom, that's it?
Yeah.
Heather?
I mean, I feel the same.
Well, okay, so then this is my question. My answer is going to be a little more long. So I was around women all the time with children. And this is going to segue into my next piece. So my mother obviously was my role model because to me, she was kind of like the mother that I knew I was going to be because I'm so much like her. Specifically, when it came to the different types of kids I knew and who I was. I'm not saying I was exceptional. I was just different, and not in a bad way or a good way. I just was. She would tell me like growing up that, when other kids were like, loud and extra playing and you just didn't know what to do, you would just sit down in the corner and wait and watch. And then if you saw people get in trouble, you was like, you was in a good spot because you was like, yeah, I didn't think that was a good idea. So you would sit in the corner and wait. And so she said that, there was ways she taught me how to like learn to love being by myself or being able to be okay with my own company, which I appreciate. So even if I do have children, I think it's important for them to know how to entertain themselves too. You know what I mean? And not feel like if they're not entertained, then they have to get in trouble. because I don't want that kind of pressure, because that's where all that, what is it, idle hands make the devil's workshop. I don't want no no kids working in the devil's workshop in my household. So I get that, and I appreciated her for that. There was another woman I knew, there was plenty, but some of them were good role models, some of them weren't, and we could talk about that. That's the segue. But there was another woman I knew who I still love, who I look to as like a second mother sometimes. She had 10 kids by herself because she was crazy, but also because her and her husband loved to do it, and they just loved each other so much. So I got it. So, and I was around, like I was babysitting, and I was around her for 4 of her children. So she had 2 when I met her first. The second one was like maybe like almost 1 year old, and then 4 babies after that she gave birth to, and I knew her personally. Like I was helping her with the kids when she needed my help. I was around. And so I just watched her, because I'm like, okay, she has multiple children on a budget, you know what I mean? But she's still herself. She's still her loud, boisterous, happy self. You know what I mean? Learning about like that's the first time I ever saw somebody go through a C-section, not like seeing the C-section, but like the after effects of it. And I was like, damn, this is some deep, heavy ass shit. I don't know if I want to ever do that, but you can't really help it. Seeing her go through some stuff with her children, because one of them had like problems with his insides. This is how much I knew her kids. One of them had problems with his insides, and so he couldn't hold his mother's milk, and so he would throw it up all the time. And for like the first month, he was really, really skinny, and they were concerned. But once they went in, did surgery, and like moved his organs around, he was able to drink milk again fine. So she was a really great role model for me. And we're going to talk about advice now, because that's what I wanted to talk about too. One of the things, she gave me 2 pieces of advice. One is about motherhood. One is just like general information. And I think it's so funny, and I'm going to share because it's hilarious. But one of the smaller things I learned from her was, because you know how you see movies sometimes and people have kids and they're like, shh, I just got the baby to sleep. Everybody be quiet. Oh my gosh, shush, shush, shush. I was like, bitch, I got to tiptoe around my kid when he go to sleep. Fuck that. If I want to do shit, how the fuck I'm supposed to do stuff while my child is asleep? This is ludicrous. So I would watch her when she would put her kids to sleep, and she would put her kids to sleep with music blasting loud. And I'm like, well, you ain't concerned that your kid not going to sleep? She's like, no, watch. And so she would be like, minding her business, vacuuming, talking loud, music loud, and the kid would just fall asleep. She's like, what you have to do is just function. The kid will figure it out. If they're sleepy enough, they will go to bed. And I'm like, oh.
Well, that's the thing in the African household, too. They said never put your child to sleep, like, quietly. You have to allow noise to be around, because you can't adjust your life to just for this one person in the house. Like, you have to live your life a certain way.
That's why they put them in their backs anyways.
Yeah. You see them walk around with the baby.
While you're cooking, pounding
Some
yam,
women
like
take
all
the
of
babies
that.
to
You gotta move. You gotta function. Yeah. So I was like 11, and that was the first tidbit of info I ever got from somebody with a kid. I was like, oh, okay, I remember that for the future. But I'm 11 years old thinking about being a mother. But we're not gonna talk about that. The second piece of information that I just want to share, because I thought this shit was hilarious. She was telling me this shit when I was a kid, and I never forgot it. She said, you know your man is cheating on you, right? Especially when he fucking other women raw. Because when you have sex with your man and you pee afterwards, apparently there's a smell that comes off, because like the chemicals that combine with the two things, like it just gives off a certain smell when you go to the bathroom. She said, you know your man is cheating when you go pee and it don't smell the same. That's how I caught my last man, my first baby daddy, cheating on me. I was like, well, bitch, who knew? So I've taken that info with me.
Wait, what?
I didn't know, but it makes sense to me, because I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I took it with me. I don't care.
I'm not sure if I believe that, but
I'll look it up. I feel like there's some truth there. I feel like it makes sense.
Somehow
Because
you're
why wouldn't it make
absorbing
sense?
another woman's chemicals, and when your man goes
But, like,
inside
why
of you, he
wouldn't
gives
it?
you
know
a
what I'm
little
saying?
bit
Like,
of
let's
those
say he
chemicals.
comes
That is
home
absurd.
and he went out and it's late and he didn't do what he was supposed to do. You know how men come home and they shower real fast? You be like, why you go shower?
I'm gonna stop
You
right
cheating.
here because Ashley has some stands on this podcast, and they say we need to stop making her feel like
Whatever. It's funny. I thought it was hilarious. I'm like 12 years old and she telling me this shit. I'm like, damn, that is some shit. So I just kept it with me because I
Why
don't
would
care.
she tell this to a 12-year-old?
Who gives a fuck? Why wouldn't she? I don't care. Please, like I'm fucking. Please. I was scared of my mother. I did not have sex until I was well out of her house. Thank you very much.
I know, but
Thank you very much. So it was fine. But anyway, any other pieces of advice our parents, our mothers gave to us?
In terms of like being how to
Mothers,
raise a child?
how to raise a child.
For me, I think with African parents, it's all like, okay, I started feeling like having a child would be a lot of work when I saw how Americans live. In Guinea, I swear to God, my mom did not raise me. The maid raised me.
Yep.
Even my grandmother didn't raise me. She was like, okay, just go out. They just tell you to go outside, and people in your neighborhood will be the ones to like discipline you, raise you, or do whatever with you. So for me, I didn't get any advice in terms of how to raise a child.
Huh.
Because they're just more so on that thing like, don't have a kid. Do not have a kid. Do not have a kid until you reach like in your 20s.
And then like,
okay,
why aren't you
we
married?
need you to have a kid.
Now
And
why?
then they don't give you any advice on who's going to take care of it. Because at least I know my mom is not going to try to take care of it.
Well, I mean, the notion is that there's always going to be help. And now that we're in a West, it's a little different where we're like, wait a minute, there's not always going to be help. Because
Is it?
just like Holly said, I know who my nanny is.
Yeah.
And her name is Tanti Mahima. Like, I know her in Guinea all the time. We visit her. And she was like the woman who raised me.
So do you think the Western women are looked down upon if they ask for help or if they want help? Heather, do you feel comfortable with getting help?
Well, I mean, if we harken back to my postpartum, I can't remember what happened, but somehow I ended up on the phone with you one day. And I remember I was like, and I probably had like a little bit of undiagnosed postpartum depression. And I was by myself. So my mom came for the first week, which I deeply appreciated. And then she kind of went back to her life. And she was extremely helpful. I had a C-section though. So it was like a little bit of a challenging recovery. And then I remember somehow I ended up on the phone with you one day. And I was like, I'm having a really hard fucking time. It's been 2 months, whatever. And Ashley was like, well, why the fuck didn't you call? And it was as is everything with Ashley, I was like, it was like the heavens opened up. I was like, oh my God, it's the best advice I've ever gotten in my life. But then it was like, why the fuck did I not call? Like, why didn't I lean on somebody else? And I think it's so much of like, you get so much of the message, like becoming a mother is natural. You'll just know what to do. Follow your instincts. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, I must not have any fucking instincts. I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I'm like, I managed to breastfeed. I felt like that was like the biggest thing. I was like, I can feed her and make sure she doesn't die. But I was like, why didn't I call Ashley? I think it's so much like, I don't want to inconvenience people's jobs. Everybody else has their lives. And I think that's the biggest difference raising a kid here. And I mean, especially like in the region that we live in, it tends to be like hyper busy and everybody has things to do. And so even when I had Satya, it was like the first 2 weeks, everybody was in and out of my house. People brought food, people called. But then, I mean, naturally people go back to their lives. And unless you tell them, hey, I need help, it's not just going to come. And so I think it is. I think there is sort of this expectation that you figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a Heather thing though too, because I know Fatima has no problem
She'll ask.
asking for help. Because I remember I'm like, okay, I have GRE class the next day. She asked me to babysit one night, right? I'm like, I have GRE class and I'm also editing a documentary. She was like, okay, that's fine. Well, I'll drop him off at 11.
Amen.
And I'm going to go out and then I'll come pick him back up in the morning before
That's
you have
true.
to go to class. So
Like you will go to sleep with him in the bed and you'll be fine. And he wasn't even a year old yet.
he wasn't.
He was months
and
old.
she went out for
Yeah.
just mommy time.
Uh-huh.
And she had no problem asking me.
Heather, that is a you thing.
a you
No, let's talk about this because I wish Fatima was here to defend herself because she does this. Fatima be on Snapchat every weekend religiously out at the club, at the hookah bar, boobs out, short dress, living her full ass life. This is all you, girl.
Yeah. And going back to the thing, this is being a Heather thing. It's also like another friend of ours, Sienna type of thing.
Yeah.
Sienna's very overprotective. Like she does not want to go out. She doesn't even trust her child with her mom.
That's
and
crazy.
I'm like, what's going on here?
But don't you think that's kind of an American thing?
It has to be.
Well, Sienna's Latina.
Well, that's true too. But she kind of embraced.
Because we were talking about, we have a wedding in May. And like, I knew we had to take a day off of work to go. And I was already annoyed with that. And then Shalyn was like, oh, and it's no kids. And so like, and Shalin's a groomsman. And I was like, well, you're a groomsman. Why can't I bring my own kid? And he's like, no, I already asked, the person. And so like, I popped off last night because like, this is ridiculous. I got to take a day off of work. How am I going to find somebody to watch my kid on a weekday? And then I have to go to your wedding and I can't even bring my own kid. And and it's in a different state. It's not like it's even local. So I'm like, I'm supposed to find a babysitter in a different state. And I mean, and they're younger, like they're like about like 5-6 years younger than we are. But and so like my friend and like we had a babysitter last night. It's like one of my best friend's little sisters. And she was like, well, you can leave her with our family. And I was like, I don't do that. I have the only person I will leave her with is my mother. And I don't know what that is, but no.
You got to trust people. My mom would leave me around all the time. She wouldn't give a shit. I was left, not in a bad way. Yeah, but not in a bad way, but just like, she just let me be. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you be all right. I'm convinced. It's not even like a bad thing. Like, she was like, would go out in the middle of nowhere and be gone. But there were times in my childhood from when I was a baby until I was about 15 that she would be gone for like long periods of time. And she would just trust the other women around her to take care of me. And sometimes they would do a great job. Sometimes they wouldn't. But I wasn't dead. I wasn't like, hurt. The question, did you die? No, I didn't. I was never hospitalized. I might have felt like, I wasn't treated the best because people don't never treat other kids the way they treat their kids. Yeah. Which is just, it's a sad truth, but it's the truth. But I never felt like, I wasn't well taken care of.
Well, maybe it's like, since Fatima's background, Hebrews and like Africans have this type of background. It's just like, your child will be fine. The community will take care of it as long as I know you. Right. Fine with my kid. And
I know you're not a child molester. I know you're not a murderer. So we good. Like, you're not going to do anything terrible to my child. And it's not like my mother left me with people who she didn't like either. She will leave me with people who she actually liked. I might have felt alone, like, damn, she left me. What the fuck? But like, it is what it is. Like, I'm not tripping about it. My grandma kicked her out. I didn't know this because I was a baby. My grandma kicked her out and she moved to Idaho for like months. I'm like, how the fuck are you in Idaho? What the fuck is happening here? Or Iowa. It's either Idaho or Iowa. Yeah. The whole time. And I didn't know that, but she was like, yeah, I had to go. And my grandma took care of me because like she was gone for like months. So the shit happens. Yeah. So speaking of like all of this bullshit, it's kind of related, but not really. How is your romantic life doing? Like, how are you and your husband? Is this too much?
No, yeah, it's coming back from non-existence. I think the first year of a baby's life, though, especially like if you're like a breastfeeding mom, like it's just a baby's really demanding on your time. And if you work, fucking forget it. Because you're up all night, you're up all day. If you have any free time, you don't want to look at him. You want to go to bed. So, I mean, like, even when I went back to work, Satya was still getting up 3 times a night. So I was sleeping for like maybe 4.5 hours. And then I'd have to be at work by 6:45. Then I'd be leaving work at 4:30. So and he'd get home at like 8:30. So that was a wrap. Then when your kids start sleeping through the night, it's kind of like a game changer because then somebody can watch them. You can go out, you can watch TV together at night. But I think part of it too was like the same thing that you said. It was like, why don't I ask people to come watch her if I don't trust to pay like some random babysitter to come watch her? So Howard's gonna watch her. My friend's little sister watches her. And so like we just like, and you just have to plan it too, because that's the thing as well. Like once, and it's not just a kid. It was like our life changed so much because we like bought another car, we moved into a house. So it's like the house demands as much of our damn time as the kid does half the time. Like right now we're putting in new windows, our kitchen flooded. So we're fucking like looking at granite and shit on the weekend trying to put our kitchen back together. There's so many demands on your time when you have a child and you have a home that it's like, unless you carve out that time a month in advance, it's not going to fucking happen.
A whole fucking month.
Well, no, what? So you have to plan.
Okay, so
go ahead, Howard. Drag her.
Babysit in April, right? Because first when she asked me to babysit, I'm like thinking it's that weekend.
Right.
This girl calls me, I think February or late January.
No, Howard, no, because I have texted Howard last minute, and Howard's always like, "I'm busy. I'm in New York." So stop playing, Howard. Y'all are busy too.
Well, it was the last time I was in New York, and the last time I was at work. Like I had to work that day. And no, but Heather, this one, if you would have asked me a week in advance, right, for the weekend, I can plan that out. I'm fine with that.
Heather asked
me late January, so I'm gonna need you to babysit. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. So
It's on my Google Calendar with my husband. That's all I care about.
Where y'all going? It better be a all night 2-day cabin trip. Where y'all going? She gonna be like, to dinner. Go ahead. Where y'all going?
I don't know yet.
For how many days? Is it just a couple hours and a night, or y'all staying over somewhere?
We're not staying. Howard's not sleeping at my house unless you want to, Howard.
But Heather, but you see why I have a problem with this? Because bitch, 2 months for a couple hours.
Romantic time. Like what
kind of shit is this?
romantic time
So
is
there's
this?
no such thing as spontaneity anymore. I take it like that's a wrap.
No.
Spontaneity can't happen nowhere. Bitch. She said I need to date night, not nights, not date vacation, date night.
I plan my date nights in January.
We even went to a therapist one time, and it was like she gave the best advice, and she was like, "Listen, like it just looks different." She was like, she asked us these questions. She was like, "When did you notice your relationship first change?" And we were like, "When we moved in together." She's like, "Well, of course, it fucking gets boring." And I was like, "Wow, she's a really great therapist." And she's like, "And then when you have a kid, it gets even more boring." And she literally said, "It just looks different by necessity. Like you're just gonna have to carve out that time and make it happen." And it's true. That's kind of what it is.
So your relationship changed a little bit. I mean, y'all getting y'all romance back together. What about your friendships?
That's changed a lot.
Heather, what about your friendships? Before we drag you. I know, right? Go ahead, Heather. How have your friendships changed?
I mean, yeah, because it's totally different. I mean, it's hard to do things at the last minute. Like you tend to like plan your time out a lot more, and so like, and you have to coordinate. Like somebody always has to be watching your kid. I don't know, but see, you have to remember too. I switched jobs when I had Satya too, so like it's also like the job thing. So it's like I don't have access to my phone pretty much the whole day that I'm at work, and then I work at night now too, 2 nights a week, and then I got the Satya, and so it's just like it's just different. It's hard, but I'm trying to make a better effort. I feel like I've been better the last like 6 months.
Well, yeah, I saw you finally, so that's something. That's new. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Well, for us, go ahead. Have your types of friendships changed? Like, do you have more like married friends with kids now, or do you still have like the same? No. Okay.
Well, it's different because like my girlfriends are like me or how I used to be or whatever. So like none of my girlfriends are married. I don't know that any of my girlfriends are really going to get married, which I could give a shit less about, I have one mom friend who I adore, and she's like really cool and like we get along. I think one thing when I was growing up, because we were a military family, like I never really grew up around my parents' friends because they didn't really have the opportunity to like lay roots and have friends. And I think like my best relationships in life oftentimes were with people who were older than me. And so it's like, I just think there's so much benefit. And I think the other thing too is our friend group is so goddamn diverse in every way possible. I just like the wealth of like our community of friends is really important to me, that she grew up in that. And like, definitely having a kid limits like our individual participation in that community at times. But like you just try to figure it out. We still try to do shit to the best that we can.
Well, I mean, your perspective of how your friendships have not changed is like, I'm questioning it now, because I'm like, when I go to Heather's parties now, which are like usually her kids' birthday parties, it's just like a bunch of people who are in a relationship.
And then like, our single asses with Ashley.
Acting extra.
Like in the corner. Ashley's like, hey y'all. I'm like, hey girl. And we catch up, and then that's it.
Well, when Heather says like it's not different, she doesn't hang out with too many moms, I'm like, then when are you making time for us?
She don't. She be lying to her fucking self.
Why do I feel like this episode is all about asking questions to Heather? So why haven't you been given time?
Because it's real. Because this shit is ridiculous.
Well, maybe it might be a two-way thing. So I feel like we need to get to the bottom of it. What are we doing that's making you not like give us enough of your time? And
what do we need to do?
But I think it's relative. So if you guys look at the amount of time that I spend with people, even though it seems like so different to you guys from the outside looking in, relatively speaking to the amount of time I actually allocate to like people outside of this household, it's really, I mean, it's like Hawa, Ashley, white Ashley.
I like how she's white Ashley. I'm just Ashley. I appreciate that. Go ahead.
Vid. And that's like, I don't even really see Vid. I mean, it's in general, you just see people a lot less. And one of my coworkers I see. But even that, it's like once every couple months. I think that just becomes like a norm. But I think some of it too is like communication. That's why I try, and you guys better give me some level of fucking credit.
We're gonna try here. Go ahead.
Try, stretch yourself. I do try to be better about communicating. I'm like, okay, I know I read a text during second period from Ashley. I need to make sure that when I'm on planning that I answer it. It's like I try to make a fucking mental note. But you have to remember too, I work with some demanding ass kids. It's like I'm constantly putting out fucking fires.
No, I get it. And I will say you have done better, because even as single Heather, sometimes you wait a week before you answer a text message. I'll be like, well, bitch, I moved on. I don't even know what you responded to anymore. So I'm really trying to figure out.
As single Heather, I guess maybe I'm going back to single Heather because maybe it might have changed our relationship when she got married, because I used to live close to her.
Yeah,
so
that's
it was
true.
all the time. I was always with Heather. One summer, literally, I would see Heather from 7 a.m. in the morning to 7 p.m. at night. All the time.
I do think proximity does make a difference, because we now live in a place where you have to fucking drive to get here. Nobody wants to take the train to Glenmont and then walk to our house.
It's too much. Girl, every time I think, I'll be like, I should go see them. And I'm like, but I live in DC and it's too much. I can't. I would have to figure that shit out. I can't figure it out. But yeah, you're right. So it's us and it's you. So we need to work on it. We'll do better. You trying. I get it. I'll come over one day.
And can watch cartoons with you guys.
Yeah. Tonight we have guest room.
Okay, sure. Yeah. And I like cartoons. I'll watch cartoons with Satya.
Yeah.
I'll put her on some shit.
Put some Pepper Pig.
But it is, I will say this, it makes us because we finally feel like our life has kind of gone back to normal. And so, but we're also we always, we kind of talked always about having 2 kids. And so now it's like, oh God, do we want to start over again?
Right.
It's
yeah, that was going to be my next question. If y'all even want any more. Go ahead.
The only reason we want another kid, I'll be honest, and I think this is the same for most people, is that we analyzed all of our friends who are single children, and we're like, they all have some pretty salient peculiarities because they were only children.
Yeah, we suck.
And so it's we really think there is a benefit to them having a sibling.
It's really fucking true. If I had a sibling, I would be so much more well-adjusted.
Well, see, I have something to say about that. So then the second child only comes not because it was the love-made child, it's just, oh yeah, well, I guess, the first one kind of needs someone around so that they don't end up being a single child. I'm a second child, and I feel some type of way about that because I feel like I wasn't made with love. I was just there to help the first child have a sibling, It's not fair to us.
That's funny.
It's not.
You should still have it.
I think though, and I feel
She's like, yeah, that's what it is.
See?
There's something about the first child. I'll let it lie, Yeah, I think something needs a sibling. I just don't know, because nobody and that's one thing too. People have no problem watching one kid. You ask somebody to watch 2 kids, it's a game changer.
What? You want me to what? No thanks. Until they 11 and 9, ain't no way, because by 11, Satya at least will have some idea of how to take care of herself. So all you really got to do is just make sure don't nobody burn the house down. That's it. So you just there watching TV, but a 2-year-old and a newborn, girl.
I wonder if Heather's gonna be treated like a goddess again when she's pregnant for the second
Oh
time.
yeah,
You
I
should.
remember
You should walk
when
around
we
like
were in
Beyonce.
New York. Oh my God, so many men were like, "Hey,
That's
hey!"
true. No.
It was just Heather. It's like she was walking
Heather
with this
got
glow.
hit on, and mind you, we're
Yeah,
we're
and she
single.
was pregnant.
We do not have a belly. We do not have a front butt. What's
It's something
going
about them
on?
hormones. It's something about that glow when you pregnant. It's real. The glow is real on pregnancy and pregnant
Yeah.
women. I be looking at pregnant women like, damn, bitch, you look really good today, despite your stomach. Yeah, Beyonce. I'm sorry, Beyonce looks amazing as a pregnant woman. You hear me? You need your second child. You need to buy flower crowns.
Oh, she
And
had the flower crown when I told her at her baby shower.
That's true. You need to bedazzle them with rhinestones.
And please have a pregnancy shoot. I know.
Oh my God,
Ashley
please
thinks
don't.
This is corny,
Oh my God,
but I
no,
think it's
please.
beautiful.
They're
and
so
let
ratchet.
us do it. Let us. I want to style your pregnancy shoot.
Heather,
You can keep it to yourself. No, you can keep it to yourself, but I really want to do a pregnancy shoot. Have this out. It'll be very revolutionary, like all these women heroes.
Oh, bitch, no.
Dress her up as like Frida Kahlo and just like with a belly out.
Oh, bitch, that's so ratchet. I hate pregnancy photos. This is so not related to anything, but I fucking hate them. They always look ratchet. It's always just like these weird, awkward poses that center around the belly, and you're like, you would never do these things. It's kind of like engagement photos. They all look so stupid. Oh my God, please don't do it. Don't, especially don't let Howard do it. Lord Jesus.
Sally, it'd be so extra.
No.
Then to my credit, we did neither of those things the first go around. So
Okay, so my last question, because we've been here an hour, is what advice do you want to impart on us single childless people?
I don't know. I think like the one thing that I think about often is that like a lot of my friends don't want to have children. And I personally just to some degree get it because I feel like I was there. And that at the same time, it makes me really sad. Because I feel like so many of the people that I consider friends would be amazing mothers and fathers. They'd be some of the best. And I think some of the qualities that I think make them the best for that role are the qualities that make them not want that role to some degree. Because I think like a lot of families, I mean, bless their hearts. I mean, I think they do their best to raise their children. I think they raise their children to be very normal, very mainstream, to not think outside the box. And I mean, they grow up to be healthy, decent people for the most part. But I don't think they're the kind of people that are going to get us out of the hellhole we're living in right now. And so, yeah, I think one of the things is like, if you ever consider having a child, don't overthink it. And I think anybody can play that role. And I think Ashley hit the nail on the head. Like, it looks so different. It doesn't have to look one way. It doesn't have to be nuclear. It doesn't have to be with a husband. It doesn't, you don't have to live in a house. Like motherhood happens and has always happened in like a variety of environments and contexts. And I think we're sort of colonized in our thinking. And I think a lot of it has to do with sexism about how motherhood has to look. And nobody determines that for you except for you. So that would be my advice.
Hey guys, this is Aisha with Sula Baobab, where I will share with you words of wisdom. Since today's topic was about motherhood, I'm going to leave you guys with this quote. Sometimes the strength of motherhood is greater than natural laws.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Cassava and Cornbread. We are so happy that you continue to come back each week and listen to us try to unpack some issues that we learn about. If you don't know already, you can find us on in a few places. For social media, you can find us on Twitter at the CNC Podcast. On Instagram, we're Cassava and Cornbread. We're also Cassava and Cornbread on Facebook. And please subscribe to our podcast, both on iTunes and SoundCloud. If you're interested, like and follow. Please leave comments. Rate us if you liked what you've heard so far. If you don't like what you've heard so far, leave a comment. Let us know how we can improve. You can also send us an email at cassavaandcornbread@gmail.com. All of our bases are covered. And we also have a website, cassavaandcornbread.com. Child, you can find us. Please believe.
To know us.
Google
Leave us
Cassava.
anonymous messages through the website.
Anything. Google Cassava and Cornbread. At least 10 things will pop up where you can find us. Please find us and like us and follow us and continue to listen to us. We have much more in store. And we hope that you'll continue to stick with us and tell people about the great work that we're doing. So as for me, you can follow me on Twitter at ashbash_CD. So it's Ash, ASHBASH_CD. I try to be good with my Twitter. But reach out to me, DM me if you want, at me if you'd like to. And we can engage.
Hey, it's Hawa. You can find me on Twitter at slimt_22. And that is SLIMT_22.
As for me, Aisha, follow me on Twitter if you'd like at btimby1225 and on Instagram at btimby.